All right, here we go. So I'm very excited to talk to you again, one of my good friends, Nene Burns, who is an executive coach based in San Francisco. So, hi, Nene.
Hi, Lily. It's great. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you too. I know I've loved this because usually we talk on the phone, but I've been doing
Right.
Zoom, so I get to actually see all of my friends and their cute outfits. Um, but so I wanted to just talk to you. Okay, so we just realized San Francisco's been on lockdown now for about 10 days, and
Mhm.
you live in a really beautiful part of San Francisco where I know you enjoy spending a lot of time outdoors,
Yeah.
even though you do work from home most of the time. So I would just be curious right away how like your daily life has changed during
Mhm.
this time.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, it's funny. So what I've said to people is generally my daily ops are pretty much the same. Actually, like my routine in the morning, my all my calls are either like you just said, they're either audio or they're video like this, like Zoom. And probably right now, actually, 100% of my business is by phone or by video. I would prefer it to be a little different with more face-to-face time, but I have to say that daily operation of that hasn't changed a bit. So that's kind of amazing on one hand that I feel very, very lucky on in that way. I think the place where I've seen a difference is sometimes I would go to cafes to do work, or I would go out and be social in the evening. It is, well, you work from home a lot yourself. It's hard working from home by yourself all the time for me. Like I need to be out with people and be face to face and feel like I'm part of the world out in life with people. And so that whole part has been cut off for me. And that's where I see the biggest change for myself. Just there's my little favorite restaurant, French little restaurant down in town where I get my little Tuesday night bubbly champagne. They have like a half price champagne on Tuesdays. And so I used to go down there. That was kind of my one little weekly thing where I would always run into people and have conversations in French, and I don't get to do that anymore. So um, that's a bummer. And then I think just the other part of that, there's not the freedom to go out to a cafe or to go have a dinner party with my friends or whatever to get that little social piece in there. So yeah.
And I was talking about that with my mom yesterday. I mean, because obviously we've all been following the news pretty closely, and how the curve here is not flattening, but actually going up, which is tragic, especially in cities like New York, where I just interviewed my friend Marissa. And
Mm,
it is interesting because that is the American way. I mean, it's why people immigrate here and people stay here is because we have freedom. And so I think it's so interesting because what we're going through is completely counterintuitive to our culture, where we're
hmm.
usually allowed to do whatever the F we want to do.
That's right. I mean, that's absolutely a foundation of American culture. What is it? Um, what is it on the dollar bill for peace, liberty, justice, whatever it is, then the American way, something like that. I don't know. I don't remember what it is, but that freedom piece is huge for us. And actually, last Sunday, so this past weekend, where I live, as you mentioned, is part of San Francisco that's really beautiful. And part of why it's beautiful is because it's right on the ocean, it's right on the bay. There's lots and lots of open space and trails. And I on purpose live here in this part of the Bay Area because I love being out in nature so much. And last weekend, everybody and their brother decided that this was the place they needed to come to go be out in nature. So the trails and the beaches and the national parks were over flooded like a hot summer day. So they got closed. So my county closed all parks and trails to everyone. And then I had a whole meltdown about it because it felt like it took away my last freedom, my last piece of, oh, I have somewhere to go to get sanity back. I can at least go be out in nature, which is a big, it's a part of my life, my daily life. And so it felt like that was being taken away from me. They've since rescinded it to, if you can walk or bike to a trail, you can go on it. So that's good, at least.
But I know you've been doing workout videos because I called you the other day and you were huffing and puffing in your apartment, and I was like,
Totally.
what's going on over there?
Well, yeah, because the gyms are closed, right? So because the gym is closed, then you're doing workout, but which I will 90% of the time to do my workouts like that, I would go to the gym. But well, all right. I got my laptop. I got the dude yelling at me. I can do it at home. Fine.
Okay, so you've been, yeah, I was going to ask how you've been coping with that because I know similar to me, you're
Yeah.
big into exercise and being in
Yeah.
nature. So you've been doing your exercise videos.
Totally. And, the intensity workouts, mine are short. They're like 15 to 20-minute videos and they're really intense. And that is, I could go off on a whole thing, which I won't, but just physiologically, doing that level of intensity is actually floods the brain with all kinds of good hormones that we need right now because of our stress levels. So it's actually flooding us with, hormones that are essential for us to mitigate stress and release stress, especially cortisol, which is, has a half-life of 12 hours. So if we're stressed out, that cortisol can be in our system for 12 hours. So exercise can help mitigate that. So yeah, so definitely exercising, getting out in nature as much as I can. I have met friends for walks and we walk further apart than we normally would, and there's something about at least being in the same space with a human that you know and love, even if you're not close together, and then moving out in nature. We've been lucky here. I mean, we've had some rain, which is good actually for us, but we have also had a lot of sun. So I try to get out in the sun. That's one of my other big things, is just getting some vitamin D on the body. That does all kinds of good physiological things too. Meditation has also been another big thing. I know you and I talked about meditating before. It puts us in a different part of, in our rest and digest nervous system. And I mean, I'm stressed just like everybody else, even though my business is still, moving in the right direction right now. And I'm crossing my fingers that it will continue this way. But I think about the bigger implications of this longer term, financially, but also health wise and culturally, what's it doing, what's it changing for us as a society and as a world. And so meditation has been really, really important because it helps put us into that rest and digest nervous system so that I can be more centered when I get on calls with people like you, with people like my clients. And, that my clients need that right now. They need someone that they can talk to that isn't just jumping on the bandwagon of being freaked out. I mean, I certainly don't pretend like I'm not freaked out with them in terms of like pretending something, but I can be calm and I can be grounded when I'm on the phone with them, which I think is really helpful. The other thing I've been doing a ton of is dancing. So there's a DJ D Nice. I don't know if you know him, Daryl Jones' is his name anyway. And he did this dance party on Instagram for like, I can't remember how many hours. And it had all these really well-known people, including Mark Zuckerberg got on there, Oprah and Ellen DeGeneres. Over 100,000 people were in his virtual dance party. And I have just been cranking his D Nice's Instagram dance party because it's just like, he's calling out people's name. You feel like you're part of something. I feel like, almost like he's talking to me, even though he's calling out, whatever, hi Rashida Jones, hi Quincy Jones, but then I feel like he's recognizing, that other people are there with him. And I just think that's such an amazing, this great use of social media, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. I know. Well, I was just talking about that with Marissa because she works in the music industry, and we were saying how innovative the artists are being in terms of reaching out to their fan base, and I think recognizing that people need not only connection but to have fun right now. So
Absolutely.
my next question, which is, so you're an executive coach, you have clients that you work with, a lot of sort of big wig types, especially in the corporate world. You live in Silicon Valley, so that's a huge hub for your clientele. Have their needs changed recently as far as what they need from someone like you? I mean, maybe has it gone from being more like tactical, strategic approaches to what they're doing career-wise to more just needing a friend or someone to talk to?
That's a great question. A little bit. I think how I frame it in my mind is whether or not they realize it, which most of these folks do absolutely understand that they're under a lot more stress than normal. Now, having said that, you said what you said, which is I live near Silicon Valley and a lot of these people are already kind of stressed out. So I think people are realizing that they're having quite more precipitous reactions to things. And so things are seeming like they're kind of getting to them more, or everything is so uncertain, and there's sometimes they can't get traction. So it's sort of helping people come to understand what their stress looks like on them, and that it's very normal for them to feel this extreme high level of stress, and to even be quick to anger, or quick to be frustrated, or scatterbrained. Like, I mean, I have some folks that are like, I seriously can't even get on the right conference call. Like, I am not disorganized, right? Like, they're like, it's confounding to people that are normally on their game and right on time. I mean, I have people being late. I have people needing to reschedule at the last minute. I have people talking way over because they don't even realize what time it is, because they're in the middle of, just being in it with me and telling me what's going on. So in that way, yeah, I would say some of their needs have changed. Absolutely talking to people about, for them, what they know are their de-stressors, or ways for them to be grounded. In terms of grounded, by that I mean being present in their own body, like even helping them with different kinds of meditations they can do right before they hop on a call, or getting outside in nature for even 2 minutes can help someone get back in their body. So coming up with strategies in that way to help them find ways through this really uncertain and stressful time. But I also, having said that, I also have a lot of that time on our conversations are still spent on business, what they're trying to accomplish in business. Now, all of it does end up circling back to this whole world crisis right now, where, they're like, well, so everyone's working from home now, not just me, or how do I keep my team cohesive when people are used to being in the office, right? So there's different kinds of conversations going on, but they still are trying to make their business happen. And, they're still working hard on whatever the projects are, or whatever goals or milestones or products they're having to get out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great thing for us maybe to talk about, because one of my favorite people I follow on Instagram is Simon Sinek. I love him, and he has been putting out some really wonderful videos, just short ones about how to have a team meeting in the morning in order to keep your people engaged, or check in with them so they don't feel like they're just at home being forgotten about. So it sounds like that's a topic that's come up for you as well a lot with the leaders that you work with, how to keep people engaged and motivated, especially those that aren't used to working from home like you and I are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yes, it's definitely a topic. And I think so there's a couple pieces to that. One, if people aren't used to working from home, sometimes they don't even know how to kind of get their day structured, right? They can be let off track very easily. And especially if they have children, or if they have other people in their home and they don't have a dedicated space to work in. I know you and I set up space in our house that, it may serve as something else, but when we're working, that's what it's for. And so that's challenging for some people, to be able to figure out how to do that. I think one of the biggest things, so that's one point, but another point is that, people, especially if they're used to going into an office or being around people a lot, even if I've been in open space office designs here in Silicon Valley, and those are very popular right now, but people are all having they have their earphones on all the time. However, they're still in a space with other humans that they can literally like look up. Oh, there's Sally. Oh, there's, Quinn over there, or whatever. And now that, either there's no one, or there's their spouse or their kid or their whatever, right? So that's different, that the feeling of isolation is definitely present for people when they're at home, and especially if they're not used to working from home. And so that is something that with leaders, I'm talking to them about, making sure that instead of emailing, like, you can say, hey, we're going to have a 5-minute just powwow, we're going to have a 5-minute check-in. Let's get on a video real fast and just check in, instead of sending out that email that they might send out, or instead of texting someone back, giving them an actual physical phone call back.
Mm.
Because one of the things I'm noticing is that people, especially if they're not used to being more isolated, their stress levels even higher. They don't know that necessarily, but it comes out like sending multiple emails about stuff that maybe they don't need to send, but that they're like wanting to connect in some way. And they may not even realize that that's why they're sending all these emails. So I think, people have different ways of dealing with stress, and that's something really important for people to understand about other people, whether they're a leader or just somebody on the team or a friend, is that, one person's stress can look completely different from somebody else's anxiety and stress. And we can misinterpret that sometimes. I just had a conversation with someone this morning, and I'm like, let's not make an assumption about this other person because we actually don't know what was going on with them. Clearly, the reaction that they had to my client was not one that the person probably wanted to have, but had nonetheless. And I attribute it probably most likely to this really exaggerated stress level. I think us as humans giving room to other people and, the leaders I'm talking to, really talking about this with them, about you don't know what's going on with someone's life right now unless you ask them. And, that's true anytime, but especially in this elevated red alert time for everybody, I don't know what button this is pressing for people at home. And so making sure I am checking in with people individually, depending on the group of people that the leader's talking to and how well they all know each other, if there's a level of comfort and trust, they can do it in a group setting. But I often encourage leaders to literally do a one-on-one check-in once a week, if not more often, with each person on their team. I mean, depending on how big the team is, obviously. Just to find out, like, is there anything I'm missing by them being on this group call? Is there anything I should know? Like, I'm here for you. And that goes for teammates too, like teammates checking in with each other. I mean, in this time of having to be isolated off, humans are not used to being isolated off. We are social creatures. There's a woman I think I've talked to you about before, Margaret Wheatley, who she's written a book called Leadership, the New Science, brilliant book. Anyway, and she talks about how we're all part of living systems, not dead systems. Like, we're not machines, we're actually part of living systems, and that all humans need, every human needs meaning, connection, and growth. And the connection piece right now is so fragile. And so it's really, really important that we take extra measures, whoever we are, to make sure that others are okay, especially people living alone, that they're actually okay. Do they need anything I can do from you from here, that kind of thing.
Well, it's interesting because I keep thinking, it's kind of teaching us how to be humans again. I remember the last corporate project I did. The biggest thing that a lot of the people that worked there admitted to me was they loved being interviewed because they felt like they hadn't gotten the one-on-one time they craved with someone. And it wasn't like the conversations were negative. A lot of times they were very positive, but it was just having that attention given to them. Even one of the magicians I had interviewed recently from House of Cards, she said, I feel like my number one job as a magician is to make people feel seen, heard, and loved, which I thought was amazing.
That's
and so
awesome.
I hope that's what comes out of all of this, if there's anything positive that does, which is that maybe this will continue on and become a bigger part of the corporate culture.
Yeah, becoming more of a norm. And I would say, yes, corporate culture, but I would say just culture in general, because part of what, as you and I've talked about a million times, everybody's got their face down in their phone all the time, right? And so this is a time now where people, we're using the phone for good, right? Like, I could be talking to you on my phone right now on Zoom. We're on a laptop, but that maybe even just culturally as humans, human to human, recognizing another person on the street or recognizing another person in a cafe as opposed to only being down in my phone. I think there's something right now to this sort of retraining in a way of like reaching out and even hearing from people you might not, I've heard from some people I haven't heard from in quite a while, just checking in, like thinking about you, how are you, like renewing relationships. And it's, letting people know we care about them. I do think it can be a new norm, beyond just the corporate, but for sure in corporate as well. It is having corporations. I am involved with a number of different corporations, as you know, and one of them just had a huge all hands company global kind of meeting thing, wherein they talked about, making sure that if if someone's having mental problems, like even just beyond kind of the normal range of stress and the reactions to stress, to make sure that, we help them get to someone like me. Certainly with my job as an executive coach, I also need to be able to help people get to the appropriate professional person if they need that. Mental health practitioners, for example. But I think that's just true in general in life, is that this may give us a reset enough that we can see the value of being there for others, and that what others have provided and do provide for us.
I love that. Yeah. And this is the question that I'm asking everyone, because I feel like, I think you and I had this conversation, and I've had this conversation with a few other people, which is there's no distractions now. I mean, you can distract yourself all
Right.
day long by watching,
Right.
stuff on YouTube or flipping through social media. But really, I mean, it's kind of like the noise has stopped and everything's like up in our face that maybe we have to deal with. In what ways has this maybe helped you either figure out your priorities more or changed you for the better? This very odd world and situation that we're in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think, in the sense of, it's funny, I'm in a place right now in my life of wanting to take on sort of next steps. Like I have ideas about what I'd like to be doing next. And, like I said, my daily ops haven't changed that much in terms of, because I do so much work from home. But then I don't get that part about like getting to go out and have my champagne at my French restaurant, right? So I think the next steps, some of the next steps I'm looking to do, I think I am more is sort of coming to me about how I would do that. So like there's a more quieted reflection, if you will, a more opportunity for me to think through, well, how would I disperse that information if I wanted to, for example, kind of do some more teaching type stuff, or maybe it's through blogging initially, or maybe it's through videos, or maybe it's through, right. So like, I think I've started to put some foundation work in on that, and gotten some feedback, actually, interestingly, from people just by text about, you absolutely should do that. You should do XYZ, whatever it is I'm coming up with. Like, because they have time to respond. So in some ways, it's like me exploring my own ideas over here. And then when I do the little check-in outside myself, people actually have some space to be able to think about that. Normally they're going at 5,000 miles an hour, so they don't get back to me, or that, they'll give me a quick response. But I've noticed that I'm getting maybe deeper responses from people, or more thoughtful, I guess is the way I would say it, responses from people.
Isn't it cool? I'm finding that as well. I was even
Yeah.
surprised, the friend that helped me get this, video project started. I mean, I hadn't connected with her in months, and all of a sudden she said, I have time. I want to devote it to you. I love that you want to do this. I think it's beautiful that you want to reach out and connect with people. I'll make myself available to you at any time. And I thought, wow, I mean, one, I feel like people are being very generous with their time, and two,
Mm-hmm.
they have the time, and,
That's
they're
right.
doing it in the right way. And so that's what I hope too comes back in fashion, because I feel like I've always been someone that loves collaborating with people and connecting and hearing about their ideas, but I haven't always been the recipient of that. And so I'm hoping that just sheer interest in other people and their hopes and dreams, and maybe, the stuff they're struggling with, also comes back into style.
Definitely. And that's actually that last point of what they're struggling with, being vulnerable or being authentic. For example, the thing I mentioned earlier about the trails around here being closed down on the Sunday, me as a coach, my role is to mirror my clients, to help my clients see themselves, and then to teach them or suggest to them ideas that they may not have thought of, things in the realm of what they don't know that they don't know, to help expand their awareness as leaders. And one of the things I definitely charge myself with as an executive coach, working with people at the level that they're at, is, yes, that is my role, but also I am a human. So for me to be over here, I don't pretend like I'm perfect. I don't pretend like I know it all. Like, I tell people about my authentic, my meltdowns, my challenges, like the Sunday night, news flash for me that I don't get to go on my favorite trails anymore was a big deal for me. And so like, I think by sharing our vulnerable self, or sharing, like, Brene Brown always talks about, who we love so much, always talks about being vulnerable. And I think this is a time where everyone feels incredibly vulnerable, whether they call it that or not, whether they acknowledge that or not. And it is our job as humans, certainly mine as an executive coach, but I charge us as the human race for being empathetic to people right now. And that the more, it's not to walk around with everyone with, bleeding wounds, sharing all their bleeding wounds with everybody, but it is for people to be able to say, I'm scared. I don't know what to do right now. I'm at the end of my rope. I can't handle having these two little rugrats running around, and the dog and the thing, and the 17th conference call of the day. It's like, I have people that, it's that they're at their limit. And I think we, in this time of having everything kind of externally anyway, kind of have to slow down. It's actually an opportunity to go inward and reassess, what is important, but also to allow ourselves to go, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing right now. I need help, or this is upsetting me. Let's work through it. I got on a call with a girlfriend that night, and we talked for like 45 minutes, and we were laughing by the end of the conversation. I wasn't stressed out about the trails anymore. I was, and I could see it just pressed the button in me. But that's that piece that you were saying of like us being there for others and allowing ourselves to not need to look perfect, or not need to be some ideal picture of something. It's, we're all human, and we are all in this together.
That is great. Hold on.